All right, let's get right into it. What if I told you that tucked away inside your DNA, there's a single gene that could be a total game changer for your brain? And depending on which version you have, it could either speed up brain aging or act like a powerful shield protecting it. Today, we're going to unlock the secrets of this one gene and figure out what it can teach us about building a more resilient mind.
So, what's this mystery gene called? It's TMEM106B. And for years, scientists have been asking one huge question about it. Is this thing a hero, protecting our neurons? Or is it a villain that's helping to tear them down? Well, the answer, as it turns out, is way more interesting than anyone thought.
And this is where the mystery really starts. You see, scientists knew TMEM106B was a major genetic player in a whole bunch of really awful neurodegenerative diseases. We're talking about things like frontotemporal dementia, or FTLD. That's a horrible disease that can just devastate someone's personality, and even Alzheimer's. But nobody could agree on what its actual job was.
And this is where things got really confusing. It was like a scientific tug of war. Some studies were saying that having more of the protein made by this gene was toxic and that getting rid of it could actually be a good thing. But then other studies came out showing the complete opposite, that losing the gene made these brain diseases way, way worse. So what's the deal? The field desperately needed a tiebreaker.
So to finally solve this puzzle, a team of researchers designed a really brilliant, kind of elegant experiment. They basically decided to test both ideas at the same time, head-to-head, using mice that were designed to get a brain disease. They asked two simple questions. Is getting rid of the gene good or bad? And does a specific version of the gene make a difference?
Okay, so here's how they set it up. First, they started with mice that were engineered to get a condition called tauopathy. Basically, it's a brain disease where toxic proteins called tau build up, which is a lot like what we see in human Alzheimer's patients. Then, they split them into two key groups. For Group A, they just completely deleted the TMEM106B gene, gone. For Group B, they didn't delete it. Instead, they inserted a very specific protective version of that gene that some humans have. Then all they had to do was wait and see what happened.
So, first up, what happened to the mice when they took the gene away completely? Well, the results were, let's just say, not good.
Actually, not good is a huge understatement. For the mice that were already set up to get this brain disease, losing the TMEM106B gene was an absolute disaster.
And this picture just says it all. We're looking at two brains from mice with the disease. On the left, the gene is there. On the right, the gene has been knocked out or deleted. And I mean, you don't have to be a brain scientist to see the difference here. The brain on the right is seriously shrunken, which is a terrifyingly clear sign of massive neuron death. Yeah, losing this gene made every single part of the disease worse. The mice's thinking skills declined way faster, they developed paralysis much sooner, the toxic protein buildup got worse, and their brains were just riddled with inflammation. So, case closed on that one. Losing TMEM106B is definitely, without a doubt, a bad thing.
But hold on, because that was only half the story. Remember that second experiment? What happened to the other group of mice? The ones where the scientists didn't delete the gene, but gave them that special protective version instead.
This is where the whole story takes a really hopeful turn. It turns out this specific version of the gene, it's known as the T186 variant, had the exact opposite effect. It acted like a powerful shield for the brain.
And again, the visual evidence is just wow. On the left, you've got the standard brain with the disease, but on the right, that's the brain with the protective gene. Just look at how much healthier it is. There's way less shrinkage, and the cortex, that's the really important part for thinking and memory, is so much thicker and better preserved.
And the benefits were just incredible. These mice performed better on cognitive tests, their paralysis was delayed by a huge margin, and like we just saw, their brains were physically protected from falling apart. This one little tweak to a single gene was building some serious resilience.
So, this obviously leads to the next big question. How? How is this gene doing it? How is this one little variant shielding the entire brain? And the answer to that is honestly the most surprising and important discovery of this whole study.
I mean, the logical guess, the one pretty much any scientist would make, is that the gene must be helping the brain clean house, right? It's got to be clearing out all that toxic tau protein that's causing the disease in the first place. That makes total sense.
It makes perfect sense. And it's completely wrong. The protective gene wasn't cleaning up the mess at all.
And here's the proof. That dark stain you see in these images, that's the toxic tau protein. Now look closely. The amount of that toxic junk is pretty much identical in both the protected brain and the unprotected one. So the gene wasn't getting rid of the problem. It was doing something totally different.
It was actually boosting the brain's ability to keep functioning despite all that damage. The researchers found that the protective gene was enhancing something called synaptic plasticity. Now, that's just a fancy term for the brain's ability to strengthen the connections between its neurons. It's the physical basis of all learning and memory. So in other words, the gene wasn't fighting the disease directly, it was making the brain's wiring more robust, more efficient, and just plain tougher so it could withstand the assault.
Now, this discovery is way more than just a cool piece of biology. It cracks open a whole new door for how we think about treating these awful brain diseases down the road.
And you can see how important this is from what the researchers themselves said. This is the first real hard evidence that the specific genetic variant is truly protective in a living animal. It takes it from just being a correlation we see in data to a provable biological fact. That's a huge leap.
So here's the big takeaway from all of this. For decades, the fight against diseases like Alzheimer's has really focused on one thing: attacking and getting rid of the toxic proteins. But this research suggests maybe we should open a second front in that war. What if, at the same time we're attacking the disease, we also focus on building up the brain's own natural defenses? What if we can make it strong enough to keep working in spite of the damage?
And that really leaves us with this final, powerful idea. It kind of reframes the entire problem, doesn't it? Instead of just thinking about how to wage war on a disease, what if we also focus on how to build a fortress? A brain so resilient, so flexible, and so strong that it can handle the challenges that come its way. And that right there is the incredible promise hidden inside this one remarkable gene.